This edition of the Ridley Report is brought to you by freekeen.com. I wanted to give you folks an update regarding some planned demonstrations that are going to be happening in front of the Federal Building in Concord, New Hampshire. Actually, they're not technically demonstrations. They're closer to being jury outreach. A man from the Fully Informed Jury Association, or a member of the Fully Informed Jury Association, will be visiting New Hampshire on June 23rd to hand out these leaflets which inform jurors of their right to vote not guilty, should their conscience dictate. Without regard to what the judge says, without regard to what the law says, they can vote their conscience. Well, authorities in other towns where this organization has been, they don't like that at all. And there have been multiple arrests. There has been one house arrest that is still ongoing. There have been some extremely major charges levied that could result in years in jail. Or there have been also some minor charges that have been levied. Just depends on the activist, depends on the location. But most of these have been going on in the Mid-Atlantic and the New York area up until now. This will be the first one in New Hampshire. So I guess juries will be going in, prospective jurors will be going in on that day, and the activist Julian Heiklin will be trying to hand out flyers, keep doing it until he's arrested or allowed to continue. So I called the U.S. Marshal Service about 2 days ago to try and just get their take on this and find out what they plan on doing on June 23rd. And they did not return my call over the last 2 days, and that is something new. In the past, whenever I have called the Marshal Service, Steve Monier and Gary DiMartino were both good about returning calls, but Steve Monier is no longer in the saddle because of the change of administration. There's someone else in charge, and even the answering service didn't seem to know who that was. The Marshal's answering service. They still had Monier listed as the top guy, but he's apparently retired from the Marshal Service. So we will just find out, I guess, on June 23rd how they decide they want to handle this kind of thing. As I said, there have been some really, even by federal standards, some kind of harsh crackdowns on demonstrators in the Mid-Atlantic. One of the questions that I had intended to ask whoever called me back was, where exactly is the line between federal, quote-unquote, federal property and, quote-unquote, Concord city property? You would think that the sidewalk in front of the federal building, the courthouse, I should say, so the sidewalk in front of the courthouse, directly in front of the courthouse, should be the line where the city property starts. You would think that you'd be on the right-of-way if you were on a sidewalk in front of a building, and then that would not be the building's property. But I know I have been ordered to stop videotaping in that location before a time or two. You never really threatened with arrest or anything. But FIJA hits these folks, that hits a nerve with these folks, apparently, at least it has at other federal courthouses. So we'll just find out how they handle it on the 23rd, depending on where people are. People can certainly easily videotape this scene from across the street, which I'm sure must not be federal property. And then that's the difference between this location and I think some of the locations where these arrests have been happening in the previous months. But you want to know more about what's going on, you can probably go to fija.org. That probably at least will tell you what the organization is about and should have some updates for you regarding this situation. There is one New Hampshire-bound activist who is under house arrest in Pennsylvania still for attending one of these demonstrations, refusing to turn his camera off, being on federal property, apparently. His name is George Donnelly. Let's see, what else? That's all I can think of to tell you about this particular issue. There is one other minor piece of New Hampshire Liberty news that came out today, and that is that I guess it was yesterday, the New Hampshire Liberty Alliance has adopted a stretch of highway. They're going to be doing litter pickup. It's not earth-shaking news, but since I've been pining for more people to do litter pickup, I think I should at least mention it when someone does. They probably weren't paying any attention to my suggestion, but they went out and did it on their own probably, and that's great. So you head to nhliberty.org if you want to know more about their litter pickups and get involved. That's all I have to tell you right now for today. It's Dave Ridley signing off for the Ridley Report, brought to you by freekeen.com. They're the folks, because of freekeen.com partly, Keene, New Hampshire, has the highest concentration of pro-liberty media of any town in the world. and they'd like you to move there and make that even better. They have a list of about 100 reasons, maybe a little more, why you should move to New Hampshire, and you can find that by visiting freaking.com.